An update on the Harbor Freight bead roller kit. I have it set up for with an electric motor. Got the motor off of eBay. That belt that I had, I actually purchased another one, a little bit too big. That belt I had laying here in the shop, a used one. It seems to work fine, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on there for now. I got my foot pedal controller from eBay. Everything seems to work well. Then of course I have my shrinker. And then the stretcher on this side. That's all completed. The motor required a capacitor, so I ended up putting a little box on the side of my stand. I got a piece of tape over it right now. I'll go by Home Depot or something, find a cover to put on it. All I did is drilled a hole in the back of it and bolted it on. The cord was a leftover extension cord that I had that was cut up, that got cut, so I cut a piece of it off and used it. I have to buy an adapter for that foot pedal. But other than that, everything seems to work well. On the motors, just a real simple bracket. I used a door hinge and a couple pieces of angle iron, 1/4 inch that I had over here in my scrap. Cut a hole with the torch and then went ahead and drilled the holes so I could bolt on the motor. The only thing that I did buy, I bought a 12-inch pulley, and then it just has a block, 1 inch, that it's weld on. You can see. And then the other end was 1/2 inch on the motor. They're both held on by set screws. And then of course I'd seen everybody talking about adding Zerks to the blocks. I did it just because I had it all apart, so I just drilled some holes and put some Zerks in there. I don't really think it was necessary because it seemed to turn fine. And then of course to go back, I drilled a hole, added the roll pin and just a spring that I had. I cut up a pair of welding clamps that I got from Harbor Freight that I probably had. I got a bunch of them over on my welding table. This one had actually, the rivets started coming loose, so I ended up just hacking it off. I spaced it because I didn't know exactly where I wanted to put it for the pivot point. So I ended up spacing it, putting a bolt in there, trying it in case I had to tip it up or down. That spot worked well, then I just went ahead and just welded it on. Everything works fine. I had thought about with the shrinker and the stretcher, making them offset like on the other stands, but there's enough room the way I have them mounted here that there's no requirement for that. They don't hit. I guess if I originally had them mounted on some angle iron that I could stick in the vise and use the Harbor Freight handles. I was going to cut them, but I decided if I ever decided later on if I ever had to remove them and wanted to stick them in a vise that I'd still have the handles. So I just cut some bolts, some 5/8 inch bolts, drilled a hole in the end of them in the side so the set screw would hold it so it's nice and tight, and then just cut them off, ground them down, and just made the handles, and they work fine. Where I mounted the dies That's just some old scrap rod that I had off of some brake chambers. You got to cut the brake chambers off to thread them for the yokes. That's what that is. Then I put some heat shrink on top of it to help protect that. And probably wouldn't hurt the inside of these things because they're probably hardened, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was good to go. So with that being said, everything seems to work fine. I did drill a couple holes here to set those Allen wrenches in, just so they're here, because for some reason the set screws are different sizes. Other than that, it's time to take and bend some metal, cut some metal and stretch it and do everything that needs to be done. Thanks for watching.